So for today, here's what I need to teach you. It's about powers again, and it's about fraction powers. First of all, I want you to write above the word rational, I want you to write the word fraction. I just don't want you to freak out when they say, write a rational exponent. That means write a fraction exponent. So this is x to the, and I'm going to do it wrong on purpose, x to the 1/5 power. No, it's not that. What is this? I'm going to give you a hint. There's a 2 and a 3 involved, and it's either 2/3 or it's 3/2, and one more thing. The root part goes on the bottom, just like in plants. Roots go on the bottom, just like in plants. That is the root part, so that should have been on the bottom. If you knew that and had 2/3, raise your hand. Awesome. If you didn't know that, I'd like you to look at it and go, do you agree we usually read from left to right? And so a lot of kids are just going to put 3/2 because they see the 3 first. That's wrong. You've got to do it backwards of what your gut would be. If your gut says, oh, the easy thing would be 3/2. Yeah, that's the wrong thing. It's 2/3. Okay? This part's the root. It's the third root. And the roots go on the bottom, just like in plants. All right. I want to practice that one because I guarantee you're going to have to know that. Square root of a, and let's say make it actually the 5th root of a, and let's make the a to the 4th. That's the same as a to the, don't say it, write it. Try the one I just gave you, that one. And I want you to compare with the person sitting next to you. You guys compare across the long distance, okay? All right, did you say, well, I told you kind of a quick, easy way. It's not 5/4, so it's 4/5. Because, you know, you normally read from the left to right, so don't do that. Raise your hand if you had a to the 4/5. Cool. All right, I think you get that kind. There's the next kind of question that you could see on our next test. 81 to the power of 3/4. What the heck does that mean? Well, 81 has to be the 4th root of 81. And then you've got to put it to the 3rd. This is just the same exact thing, except it's backwards. Do you get how you have to be able to rewrite it that way? If they give you the fraction, you've got to be able to rewrite it as this. And you're going to be able to use a chart on the test. So for some of you that can't like figure out which number it is off of a calculator, you can look this up on a chart. Now let me show you what you'd have to know. You do not want to do the power first. You want to make it smaller before you make it bigger. The 4th root of 81 can be looked up on a chart. I'm going to show you that in just a second. Just remember, it's the 4th root of 81. So you got to go like, does 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 equal 81? No, so it's not 2. You could have used your calculator and then found like, well, does 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 make 81? No, let me see. 3 times 3 is 9. Wait a minute. 3 times 3 is 9. And then I times it together and it makes 81. So what's the answer? What is the 4th root of 81 then? It's 3. Because 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 makes 81. All right, so let me show you this chart thing. This is called a power table. You're going to have one on the test. Now be on this page, and I'm going to have you write a couple problems and just show you how you can use this to solve it. 7 to the something is 216. Good luck typing that in your calculator unless you just go 7 to the 1. Well, 7 to the 1 isn't 216, so I know that can't be right. You know what I mean? 7 to the 2 is 7 squared is 49. Well, that can't be right. I don't feel like it's 7 to the 3rd, but I could try it. And I go 7 to the 3rd, and what would happen? Would it work? Yeah, it would, because the answer is 3. But look, I could have gone like this. 7 and... crap, I just did this wrong. My bad, I'm so sorry. If you were confused by that, 7 to the third is not 216. It was 6. It was 6 to the third is 216. Dang it, my bad. 6 to the first doesn't work. 6 to the second doesn't work. 6 to the third works, so there it is. And you could have looked it up on this chart. Now, if you don't want to use a chart, I'm not going to make you use a chart. But you're going to have a calculator, and you're going to have this chart. And the chart is good for some things. It's kind of like different tools. If you had to go and build a shed, wouldn't it be nice to have a hammer and a screwdriver? Like for different things, right? Like a hammer can't build the whole shed all by itself. There are some tools that are better than others. Frankly, the calculator's better because it can do more stuff. Okay, so there are some tools that are like really powerful and they could probably be used to build a whole shed all by themselves. But it's way better to know how to use both tools. All right, so I'm trying to teach you how to use this tool. Let me show you again how you could use the power chart. If I said that I wanted to know 2 to some power is 512, find it. It's on the chart somewhere. Okay, talk to the person next to you and see if you got the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Lily, what do you think it was?
2 to the 9th.
2 to the 9th, very good. Marking Ian Alvarado as absent. And I think that's it. Just double checking. Okay. All right. This one's going to step it up a notch. If I gave you a number, would you be able to square it? Like, isn't that pretty easy? Okay, so I'm going to ask you to solve this problem. It's 27 to the 2/3. Use a chart because that's the root. It's the third root of 27. Once you find it on the chart, then you just got to square it. That's a normal power. So what you should do first is do the 27 cube root part first. Cube root of 27 is right on the chart. All right, I'm going to pause for a second. Talk to the kid next to you. See what the final answer is to 27 to the 2/3. Pausing while you try it. Okay, I heard some people, the 27 to the 2/3 thing, you start with the third root of 27, which they noticed it was right here. Do you see that's where the 27 was? So that means that the cube root of 27 was 3. How many of you figured that out? Okay, see, look, here's the 27, and the cube root was 3. Then you got to square it. Final answer, 3 squared, 9. Who in here had a 9 for your final answer? All right, at least half of you. Let's do another one exactly like that. $81. Everybody write down the 81. 81 to the 2/3. 81 to the 2/3. Use the chart and do the root first. If you're pulling up dandelions, isn't the root the most important thing? It's true. Third root of 81. Do that first. And then this part is just a regular square. I'll pause for a second. Okay, there is an answer to this question, but it is not on this chart. There is a third root of 81, and this would be one where, remember how I said some tools are better than others? A calculator could have done this, but this chart can't, and I apologize. I saw this 81 here, and I saw this 3 here, and I was like, oh, so the third root of, no, that's not the right answer. That was the fourth root of 81. So I apologize. This one could have been done on a calc, though. In fact, let's just take a second, use your calculator, and figure out 81 to the 2/3. If you know the right buttons, you can do it. It's this button, that's the key on most iPads. 81 to the, and then as long as you make sure your 2 divided by 3 goes in the fraction power, otherwise you could put parentheses around it if you're not good at that. As long as you make sure your 2/3 is the power, then you'd be good. And this will just be, Jack, did you get it yet? What'd you get?
18.7.
If I round 18.7, would that be right? Anybody else verify 18.7? Cool. If you can't get 18.7 to come out, you're not putting that in right. Okay, but on the test, we're usually going to use ones that come from the chart because that's why we're giving you the chart. And so I apologize. If I was going to use 81 like that, I should have actually done to the 3/4. Everybody try 81 to the 3/4. And then you'll be finding the fourth root of 81, which actually exists. 81 to the 3/4. Start with the fourth root of 81. Then finish the problem. Okay, so here's how you do this. Fourth root of 81. Did you guys find 81 on the chart? Did you realize it was right there?
You can also do it in calculus.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You absolutely can. And here's the fourth root of 81, and you go over here, and it's 3. Okay, so then what is this? It's a normal power. So I got an answer of 3, and I got to put it to the third. Even without your calculator, you should be able to do 3 and then put it to the third. Because this part was 3, and then what was still left is we had to put it to the third. And 3 to the third is 27. Raise your hand if you had 27. Okay, good. Now, I'm warning you, some of you, that you think you're going to be able to do all your problems with a calculator. Try doing this problem with your calculator. You think you can put that in the calculator? No. So you have to understand how this works. Write that as a power of A. A to the what? Don't say it. Write it. Well, I told you it's not 3/4 because that would be like too easy. It's 4/3. Raise your hand if you had a to the 4/3. Okay, good. What if it's a to the 4/3 equals something else? Like, let me think. 16. Let's say you had to solve this. Then watch. I want the a alone, right? If I just put it to a magical little power right there, if I put it to the right power, I'll be done. Who knows what fraction I should use? 3/4. Very good. And that goes on both sides. As you know, we do stuff to both sides. You don't just do it to one side. You do it to both. And then this cancels this because 3/4 and 4/3 make 1. They're what's called reciprocals. And then a to the 1 is just a. And then, once again, I could use a calculator or the chart. If I was going to use the chart, I would go find the 4th root of 16, which I could find on the chart, and it's 2. Is the answer 2 then? No, because you also have to do the power. And the power is 3, so all of that is to the 3rd. And yeah, I could also put it down in there if I wanted. And that means it's 2 to the 3rd. Did you get 8? All right, those are tough. Pausing. Okay, so this is the square root of 36, and then you cube it. You don't need a calculator for this one. Square root of 36, you can do in your head. What is the square root of 36? 6. And then you put it to the 3rd. Now that one, maybe you'd want that little table for, or you'd need to go 6 to the 3rd on your calculator. I'm okay with either one, but that's not a nice one. It's 200 and something. Anybody know it in their head? It's on that chart. 216, very good. Okay. This one. Which one's the root? Mallory, which one's the root? The 3. 3rd root of 343. Ugh. You'd have to look it up on that table. Or you could think it through. And could it be 3 times 3 times 3? Is there any way that that is 343? No. Could it be 4 times 4 times 4? Well, maybe. You could use a calculator to figure it out. But we're trying to figure out the 3rd root of 343. Did the 4 work or not? I'll give you a hint. 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. Is that big enough yet? No. It's not 6, and somebody figured it out. It's what? 7. So, now that you know that, that's 7. Then you do that to it. The 2 is a normal power. What is 7 to the 2? 49. And then who remembers? This is the only time we've seen this. What? I know it's a negative, but it's not the answer's negative. We've got to 49 now. Oh, say it louder. 1 over that. So the final answer is 1 over 49. How'd that happen again? We had to go, what times what times what made 343? And we figured out it was 7. And then we took 7 squared was 49. And then there was this negative right there. And that meant 1 over it. Can you keep track of all that? That's hard. Okay, so I'm going to do another one like that. Everybody try this. Write this one down. 125 to the negative 2/3. There's 3 parts to this problem. The first is the root part. 3rd root of 125. I don't care if you use the chart or use your calculator, but you got to figure out what the 3rd root of 125 is. Then you're going to do the power, and then you're going to do 1 over. Try it. 3rd root of 125, any which way you can. I personally would use the chart, or I'd go like, let's see, 3 times 3 times 3, is that 125? And then you'd find out, no, it's not. And you try 4 times 4 times 4, is that 125? And then you find out it's not. Once you got the answer, square it, and then put 1 over it. I'm going to pause for a second while you give this one a try. This is a typical test question. Okay, Jackson, did you figure out what times what made 125? In other words, the cube root of 125. Nice. Now we take the 5, which is your right answer. Very good. 5 is the answer. This 5 here, and then I got to square it. What's 5 squared? 25. And then I put 1 over. 1 over 25. That's it. See how that happened? First part was 5, then you squared it, then you do this flip. I think of these as 3 separate things. I'll show you. First, you think about it as the root first, then you do the normal power, which is usually squared, and then you put 1 over it. Those are the most complicated ones. All right, let's do a couple more. So here's what we know that will help us. You got to be able to do this and say, oh, that's x to the what? I think the easiest way is that way I was telling you. It's not 4/3. That'd be too easy. So what is it? Say it. 3/4. Okay. You got to know how to change this to a square root. It is a square root. Square root of 16, but then what am I missing? What haven't I done out of this yet? The 3. You can put it here, or weirdly, if you don't like that, you can put the whole thing to the 3rd. It'll work either way. You just have to do the 3rd power. Remember how they said it's like 3 parts? That's the root, that's the power, and this one didn't get flipped. There was no negative. All right. Remember PEMDAS. If you do PEMDAS backwards in solving equations, you start with add, subtract, then you go multiply, divide. They're just reminding you when you solve equations, you go backwards PEMDAS. Like, let's say you had this, 2p plus 3 equals 5. You always start problems with add, subtract. Subtract 3 from both sides. All right, moving back to this page of the notes. Find the pink page, please. How do you undo plus 7? Minus 7. How do you undo times by 3? Divide by 3. How do you undo divide by 4? Times by 4. How do you undo squared? Square root. If you didn't know that one, that's like the opposites. You know, like plus goes with minus, multiply goes with divide. Squared goes with square root. And how do you undo x to the 2/3? You put it to the, we started the hour with this. Does anybody remember? Put it to the what? 3/2. Good. That's called inverses. All right. This is the reciprocal. Also, I'm sorry, I said inverse before, I meant reciprocal. Do you get reciprocal of 2/7 is 7/2? Do you get that? Let's just flip it over. Guess what happens? 14/14. Look at that, it's 1. That's what reciprocals do, is they times out to 1. So if I just do flip it, then this would times out to -1. It'd be -10/10, which would be -1. So what do I have to do? If I want the reciprocal of it, remember, it has to times out to equal 1. I know it has to equal 1, so what's wrong? It needs to still be negative. All right, get to the spot on the homework here, please. Be on this blue page. What is the reciprocal of 1/3? So what can you times it by so it'll just be 1? Don't overthink this. 3/1. That's the same thing as 3, right? Yeah, 3/1, same thing as 3. Okay, and what can you times 6 by that'll make it turn out to 1? 1/6. But wait, there was a -6 actually, so -1/6. Now it'll times out to 1. Why were we making you practice that? Because here's a typical question. X to the -6 equals, let's say, 612 or something like that. You go put it to the, you got to know those for right here, -1/6. And then your calculator can do the rest. See what I just did there? You know what those will make? Those will make 1. So x is alone, and as long as you know how to put that in a calculator, you'd be golden. Everybody try that one. 612 to the negative 1/6. A calculator for sure. This will be a weird decimal. Open up your calc. Try 612 to the negative 1/6. Now, some people brought a graphing calculator with them today, and I feel almost like they have an unfair advantage, but it's totally just smart. If I were you, I'd bring a calculator, because then you don't have to go in the iPad and find this. But right now, I'm going to be walking around in about 5 seconds. I want you to have typed in 612 to the power of, which is x to the n, negative 1/6. And I want you to show me what it is on your screen. I'm going to pause for a second while you do that. And this one, when the kids put it in right in the calculator, it came out to about 0.34. I'm rounding here, but there you go. If you can't get that to come out in the calculator, make sure you talk to me, because the test is going to have that kind of stuff on it, and you'll have to know how to put it in. All right. So, if you had to solve this problem, first thing I would do is write it as x to the 4/3 or 3/4. 3/4 equals 27, and then I would know, oh yeah, I'm going to put it to the 4/3. Why? Because that cancels that cancels that. X is, and then here I'd either use the chart or I'd use my calculator. I'm okay with you using the calculator. 27 to the 4/3. You get a nice simple decimal. Okay, this one. First thing I would do is go 2x to the, what power is that? This is just a cube root. 1/3 power, very good. Plus 6 equals 10. A lot of people would right here try to put it to the 3rd power. No. First you subtract 6. Remember the PEMDAS thing, except backwards? You always start by adding or subtracting. 2x to the 1/3 equals 4. Now we can do the power thing. Put it to the, how do you fix 1/3? 3/1. Do it to both. But isn't that the same exact thing as 3? 3/1, same thing as 3. So this cancels. 4 to the 3rd, what if I don't know it? Use a calculator. I happen to know it. Anybody beat me to it? It is 64. 2x equals 4 to the 3rd is 64. And then I just have to divide by 2, easy peasy. Let's analyze that again. I had to know how to make this into this. I had to know that I had to start with add or subtract. Then I had to know how to get rid of a 1/3 with a 3/1 and do it to both sides. And then I had to know how to put 4 to the 3rd. You see why this is more complicated than regular algebra? This is algebra 2. Hardcore. Now we're not testing yet. The current plan, though, is to test on this Friday. It gives you plenty of time between now and then to get good at this. But the next test is about this. So I know it's a little uncomfortable, but I don't understand it yet. Well, it's not Friday, is it? You're supposed to get smarter between now and Friday. So if you keep practicing, eventually you'll be able to do it. Be like if the coach just taught you how to hit left-handed and you're normally a righty and you're pretty bad at it. You swing enough times, eventually you'll be able to get good at it. All right, go to this page, please. Everybody start by dividing by 6. Because you got to do the little stuff first and then you can take care of the power. You have to use a calculator for that because I don't know what 192 divided by 6 is. I seriously don't. I could do it longhand, but I don't want to. I'd use a calculator. Pausing. So I used Siri, and a kid in class also said that it's 192 divided by 6 is 32. And now I'm going to put it to the power of, Amelia, what fixes 5/4? 4/5, very good. And that fixes that. It's just x to the 1 if you want. And now I got to do 32 to the 4/5. I can do it in my head because I know the 5th root of 32. I have it memorized, but I'm a math teacher. If If I were you, I wouldn't have memorized it. You could either look it up on the chart, or guess and check until you find it, or use your calculator to get this final answer. 16 is the final answer. You are correct. Because the fifth root of 32 is 2, and then you put 2 to the fourth, and that's 16. So I knew you were right. All right, now we got to get to the homework. So everybody find the homework for today. And if you have any missing assignments, do them soon because the window for retaking that last test closes on Thursday. If you want to turn in anything from the first chapter, it has to be in by Thursday. Otherwise, you've gone too long and you've given up on your chance to do that. And it will hurt your grade. If you think homework doesn't count, you're wrong. It does. It hurts your grade a little bit every time you don't do one. All right, so let's find your homework. And I think I can cut it down to a smaller size. Who's got it pulled up? Okay, thank you. Let me look at it. All right, it appears there's just 8 questions. It appears number 8 looks a little tough. We're just going to skip number 8. So do problems 1 through 7. Number 1. Amelia, could you read me number 1?
X to the
2/3, 3/4.
to the
5/3, thank you.
equals
243. Then I would go and put to the power of, what fixes 5/3, Amelia? 3/5. And I would totally use a calculator for that because I can. 5th root of 345, and then you put it to the 3rd. That's a tough one, but I'd use a calculator. Grace, you're done?
What?
Do you do this one on a calc?
I do that on the
That's cool. What'd you get?
27.
That sounds very believable. Did anybody else get 27? All right. A couple people had done it and got 27. It's probably right. You can double check yourself that you know how to do 243 to the 3/5 power. All right. That's your homework. Just like that, there is a key. I want to leave some time for asking personal questions. So I'll be sitting over there. You can ask individual questions. That's all I got for the video for today.